Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Wilhelm Scream, and welcome back to another day in Destiny 2 for some more Destiny 2 news and the last 48 hours before Lightfall actually launches Intel. And I just wanted to give a brief rundown on 5 things that everybody should know, whether or not you're a new player or a veteran player to Destiny heading into Lightfall. These are 5 glitches that you can take with you into Lightfall or use to prepare there for Lightfall in order to get up to the soft cap of 1750 or up to the power cap of 1800. Beyond that, I'll probably have another video on best ways to farm out pinnacle gear later on once Lightfall actually launches. But in the build up to Lightfall, you probably have already been storing up your bounties. If you are a repeat player, a veteran player, maybe you just started playing Destiny right before Lightfall actually launches, but in order to have as much XP at the launch, you probably want to store up as many bounties as you can on each character. Hopefully you're playing on all 3 characters, because that's really going to make the whole power grind a lot easier once Lightfall is actually here. The next thing that I did want to cover is how to store up materials, endgame materials for Lightfall, and exotics. You can actually store exotics and ascendant shards in your postmaster. Just make sure that you know that they're there so you don't actually end up losing them. But you can store up an extra 10 ascendant shards per character, so that's a total of an extra 30, plus the ones that are already in your inventory, which will be 10. Also on every character. Also make sure that you have an exotic cipher ready to go, or pick one up from Xur. Xur is still here at the time of making this video. But these exotics, since they're in your postmaster, can also decrypt into higher level gear once Lightfall starts, and possibly new exotics, though that might have been removed from the game. But it's just a good place to store these things for any future power grind whatsoever. The next thing that I wanted to cover is some XP farming that you can do. If you are a new player, maybe you haven't watched anything on my channel before, every 3 weeks, I believe it is, the mission on the moon, which this week is the mysterious disturbance. This is the mission from the campaign, will rotate to the In the Deep mission. Now, the In the Deep mission actually has a infinite thrall, infinite killable farm in it that allows you to AFK farm, also rank up weapons, do a whole bunch of fun stuff. It's a really good farm to just know. Like I said, you can set up AFK farms there if you want, but it's just good for base level XP for weapons, and if you're trying to level up some of your artifact power, though remember that won't necessarily be a factor when it comes to activities. Still a good one to know all around. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is probably going to be one of the big things that people will use at the start of Lightfall, if you're not someone who wants to play through the Legendary campaign. Now, big thing about the Legendary campaign is that the Legendary campaign will give you a set of gear by the end of it, if you can complete it on Legendary, of about 1760, 1770. But it is a bit of a slug through the Legendary campaign. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be wanting to play it. But if it's not something you want to spend that much time doing, or don't want to be at a terrible power disadvantage heading into it, I'm going to show you a farm that should still be here at the launch of Lightfall. And it'll just help, I think, fill in those gaps, maybe when there's an activity in the campaign that's just a little too high, or if you just want to kind of power level without playing the campaign whatsoever. But just keep that in mind, that the Legendary campaign will give you a good power bump if you can complete it. I'm sure the normal campaign will even give you somewhere in the vicinity of 1730, 1740. If you're doing that, as well as playing other things, as well as using your bounties if you have it. But Also, for new players, that might not be an option, so this might be the next best thing to do. Head to the moon, and this is actually going to be in a similar area to where the In the Deep mission would actually be located, though we're going to be going there in patrol. And the reason that this farm is going to be one you probably want to know is because all the gear that you're going to be getting at the beginning of Lightfall is going to essentially up your power. So everything is going to drop higher than your power currently is. And you just want to always balance out those averages. So if you don't know anything about how power scaling works in Destiny, it's not the easiest, most intuitive thing to actually get. But once you sort of understand it, I think the best way to utilize it is just find a good farm early on that'll give you a lot of gear easily and quickly. A brief recap on how power scaling works is it's a law of averages. So if you get a higher piece of gear than your overall average power, that will increase your average and then everything will scale to that new average. But you have to, of course, acquire a good piece of gear first that'll actually up that average. So things like pinnacle gear or powerful pieces of gear. But early on, you probably don't want to use those up. So you want to save them as long as possible. And of course, if you're using all three characters, hopefully transfer some of those weapons that you might acquire over to a secondary character, which will then give them a power bump and allow them to be leveled quite a bit easier due to that same law of averages. So in the area where I am currently on the moon, there is a knight there's two knights actually, that spawn in either the summoning pits or just outside where I was. Hopefully this one is in the summoning pits because this is probably the easiest farm to do. Head down here, and as you can see, the knight is here. Now what you want to do is you want to draw this overload Minotaur to the door area. Now the reason you want to do that is because this overload Minotaur will drop a chest at the time of killing it, not before, but you want to get it as close to this door as possible because there is a load zone in between where this overload champion is spawning, this room and the outer room. Once you kill the overload champion, the chest will spawn. You want to grab the loot. You'll usually get a weapon, sometimes a blue piece of gear, but it won't matter. Because blues are essentially being nulled, you probably will get legendary pieces of gear, but everything will be over your average. Then, once you've de-zoned, you can go back in and loot the same chest. Now, because this chest is so close, you can do this fairly quickly, sometimes 3 times per chest. So every single time, you're going to be getting a new piece of gear that'll hopefully level you up. It's not a guaranteed, but you'll still be getting phantasmal fragments every single chest, which also give you glimmer. Hopefully that will carry over into Lightfall, but in any case, this is probably one of the quickest farms you can do just for gear in the lower level of Lightfall in that first stage of power farming. As you can see, looted 3 chests fairly easily. There's even ways where you can speed this up a bit more. And that knight, or that overload champion, whatever you'd like to call it, the yellow bar enemy, spawns fairly frequently in this area. But if that one's not here, I'm going to show you where the other one spawns and how to use a different load zone in order to farm out the chest for that one. It's very close. Just head back to the Circle of Bones and essentially on the opposite side. Now, I'll go into more detail when Lightfall actually launches and we know specifically which ones of these farms, if any, will be working as they are currently, but they should be working relatively similar. So over in this corner, though they're not there at the moment, you can find another overload champion that you can then kill, farm the chest, and once you grab that chest, you're going to want to head this way. turn left, head down these stairs. Until you hit the Catacombs load zone, turn back, and essentially repeat the same process we just did in the previous room, but here. This is also a way to get that knight to despawn and respawn in if they're not there when you initially go to this particular area. So just a couple of things to know. Now, obviously, these won't help with your pinnacle drops or your powerful drops or anything really after 1750, but that's one of the ways in order to get through the legendary campaign a little bit easier if you're just trying to, again, fill in some gaps, get rid of some of that power creep so that you can actually enjoy the legendary campaign while also getting the kind of gear that you want. And that's going to be it for really all the information in today's video. The last glitch that I did want to share with everybody is not really so much a glitch for power, but more, again, for materials, as the exotics that are available from the Tower Kiosk are some of the best, and the Anarchy is going to be one of the ones, I think, probably the most sought after of any previous season exotics, just because of the bump to heavy grenade launchers heading into Lightfall and just the way that that one functions in particular. I think it's going to be one of those go-to metas. As you can see, this knight is back once again. So the rest of the video is just going to be a way for solo players to farm out Spoils of Conquest, which is one of the materials that you're going to need in order to buy an Anarchy, and it's probably one of the more difficult things to come by if you are a solo player or just getting into the game, because it requires you to actually do raids. Now, if you're somebody who has a good fire team and is raiding often, it's probably not that big a deal, but just something to know. And I'm going to leave you with clips of the easiest ways to farm out Spoils of Conquest as a solo player. Again, we're going to have a new raid coming to Destiny in Lightfall, so that's probably going to be another source of Spoils of Conquest for solo players, if I can find a way to glitch into that one. But these are just two easy farms that you can do. One is a glitch for the Vault of Glass. One is for the Vow of the Disciple raid. That's not a glitch. That's just an easy first chest that some new players or solo players might not know that they can get. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and enjoy that later content after I leave you. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn on the bell to post notifications so you never miss out on any future Destiny 2 Lightfall content like this. You can also follow me on Instagram or Twitter. They'll be linked in the description box down below. And any of those things I just mentioned also enter you into any future giveaways on this YouTube channel. And I do one every 1,000 subscribers. We're so close to 66,000, so you never want to miss out. It's going to be a Lightfall giveaway. And if you've watched this far, please leave a hashtag Lightfall in the comment section down below. I'll give you another entry into the next giveaway for this video. And remember, those secret hashtags stack between all videos. So if you haven't done this on a previous piece of content on this channel, you can always go back, check out another video, and of course, do it again. And once more, I am Wilhelm Scream. Of course, we will see you next time.